I got to beware. Think it's time to stop, children. Watch that sound. Everybody look what's going down.
Hello, and welcome to another entry in the Strike Fighters 2 series. Today we're out on board the Mobile Chernobyl, one of the many names for the USS Enterprise, cruising in the Gulf of Tonkin off the coast of Vietnam. Today's date is 9 February 1967. We'll be flying our A6 Intruders today from VA-35, the Black Panthers. Today's mission objective is to suppress enemy air defense threats around the Ong Bai thermal power plant, which is just north of Haiphong on the coast. Attack and destroy enemy anti-air artillery positions in the area. Call sign will be Mamba. We'll be taking two A6 Intruders. Takeoff time 7:08 in the morning, and then we should be back to the ship by 7:46. Okay, today's loadout is going to be 12 Mark 82 500-pound bombs, 2 AGM-62 walleyes, which are laser-guided bombs. I've never used these before. Today's going to be the first time, so I'm not making any promises on my performance with them, but I'm taking them along because I want to give them a try and see what I can do with them. And then we'll finish off with 6 M47 white phosphorus bombs. And Mamba 2 set up with the same loadout. 500-pound bombs, the 2 walleyes, and white phosphorus bombs. Okay, looking at the old Maparoonie here. We can see that the objective, like I said, is just north of Haiphong on the coast of that little inlet there. Cruising altitude is going to be 16,800 feet, and we should be over the initial point 12 minutes after takeoff, approximately. We'll come in, hit the target, and then we'll proceed east, out over the ocean, and then back south, heading back down to Yankee Station for landing. A couple other notable squadrons out with us today will be callsign Dagger. These are 4 A6s off the USS Independence. They are making the strike into Ong Bai that we are providing cover for. Additionally, there'll be 4 A4 Skyhawks, callsign Trout, off the Roosevelt. They're targeting the Haiphong thermal power plant, which I believe is a different target than ours. And if we look over here at Ubon, Royal Thai Air Force Base, we can see the Air Force is going to be providing escort today for those A6s. A little joint strike going on. 4 F4C Phantoms. Target area, they're escorting to the Ong Bai thermal power plant. Alright, roster for today. Here I am, Mamba 1. Mamba 2 is Ensign Wendell Sinclair. He has 5 combat missions with no kills yet, but he's got skill 74, which is pretty good. And hopefully he'll get some kills today and start racking that score up. Alright, that's going to conclude it for today. That is today's briefing. We're going to head up to the flight deck and climb in these Intruders, and we'll see you up there for the launch. Welcome up to the flight deck. We are ready to go. Stationed on Catapult 1. Full throttle, checking those surfaces. Systems are good to go. Salute. Thumbs up from the shooter, and he gives the sign. Mamba 1 is airborne. Clearing turn to the right. It's another cloudy day, but again we've got great visibility, so nothing out of the ordinary. Standard departure. And we're just above 500 feet, so I'm going to level out. And we'll get our radars and weapons set up and turn back to parallel ship's course. And we're probably about 7 miles out, so I'm going to begin my climb. We have a long way to go today, up to almost 17,000 feet. And I'm going to begin my turn to the departure vector. And since we've had so much SAM activity in the last couple of missions, I want to take today to talk about the history and the different variants of the SA-2 missile system. The SA-2 guideline is the NATO reporting name for the Soviet S-75 surface-to-air missile system. It's a medium to high altitude, semi-active SAM, and the system includes V-750 missiles, 2 radars, and support equipment. The SA-2 codename is also used to refer to the V-750 missile itself. It's the most widely used anti-air weapon in history, and also scored the first ever surface-launched missile shootdown. Design on the SA-2 began in 1953 in response to the U.S. B-47 and B-52 long-range nuclear bombers. Although Soviet air defenses included huge numbers of anti-aircraft artillery, including radar-guided guns, it was becoming obvious that the speed and altitude of new jet bombers were outclassing World War II vintage gun defenses. For 4 years, research was done to produce a surface-to-air missile that could shoot down large, high-altitude aircraft. This missile didn't have to be maneuverable, but it had to be fast and able to punch through aircraft electronic countermeasures. The SA-2 became operational in 1957. Missile sites were set up all over Russia, replacing high-altitude AA guns like the KS-30 and the KS-19. Export models were sold to Warsaw Pact countries in the 1960s, and missiles were sent to East Germany, China, North Korea, and North Vietnam. The SA-2 claimed its first kill on October 7, 1959, when a Chinese guideline shot down a Taiwanese RB-57 over Beijing from an altitude of 65,000 feet. Credit was given at the time to Chinese fighters to keep the missile system a secret, but the following year the whole world would learn of the SA-2 when one shot down American pilot Gary Powers in the famous U-2 incident of 1960. 14 missiles were fired at Powers as he overflew a testing site. One SA-2 destroyed the U-2, while another downed a friendly MiG-19 that had been following. Another U-2 was shot down over Cuba in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. With American attacks in North Vietnam well underway in 1965, the Vietnamese requested from the Soviets improved anti-air weapons to oppose the fast and high-altitude U.S. aircraft. There was much discussion within Moscow about it. The SA-2 was only a few years old at that point, and its innards were still secret. If the Soviet Union exported them to Vietnam, it was much more likely that one would be captured by the U.S. and studied. Despite this danger, the Soviets finally okayed the program, and SA-2s began to be delivered to North Vietnam. The first U.S. casualty to the SAMs was on July 24, 1965, when an Air Force F-4C was shot down. Within days, Operation Iron Hand commenced. This was America's response to the missile threat, and missile sites were targeted and destroyed. However, the majority were stationed around Hanoi and Haiphong, and these were off-limits due to political reasons. The Soviet Union would end up supplying a total of 7,500 missiles to Vietnam. Vietnam claimed around 1,000 total U.S. aircraft kills with the SA-2s. The Soviets phased out the SA-2s in the 80s, but Vietnam is still the world's leading user at 280 sites. They are tied with Egypt, and North Korea is second with 270 sites. The standard SA-2 site consists of a central radar and guidance system in the middle of a ring of 6 V-750 missiles. The P-12 early warning radar, NATO codename Spoonrest, detects incoming aircraft at a range of 170 miles. When close enough, the target is handed over to the Fan Song radar. This is the guidance radar with a range of 40 miles, and provides altitude and speed of enemy aircraft. The Fan Song can acquire and track up to 4 targets prior to launch. However, missiles can only be guided to 1 target at a time. Up to 3 missiles can be guided at once to that 1 target. SA-2 sites typically ripple fire several missiles at the target to guarantee a hit. The V-750 itself is a 35-foot tall, 2-stage missile. There are 2 sets of fins which control flight, one on the booster and one on the second stage. On launch, the first stage fires for between 5 to 7 seconds, then drops off. This is the critical time because the missile is ballistic and is not tracking. When the second stage fires, the missile syncs up with the Fan Song radar and begins maneuvering to the target. The second stage fires for 22 seconds, accelerating the missile up to Mach 3.5. The warhead is a 430-pound fragmentation blast that detonates with proximity, contact, or ground command. The radius of damage increases with altitude as the thin air has less resistance to contain the blast. So, with more altitude, there is more time to react to the missiles, but they are deadlier. There are several major variants of the SA-2 system that we will see here in Vietnam. The SA-2A is the original missile system from 1957. Using the Fan-Song A radar, the missiles have a range of 19 miles and a max altitude of 82,000 feet. Because of the unguided Stage 1, all SA-2s do have a minimum range and altitude. The A version could not hit targets within 4 miles or below 1,500 feet. SA-2B. Deploying in 1959, the B model uses the Fan-Song B radars and improved missiles with a new range of 21 miles and 98,000 feet. SA-2Cs, deploying 2 years later in 1961, uses Fan-Song C radars. Range was improved up to 27 miles, and minimum altitude to hit a target was improved, being reduced to 1,300 feet. The SA-2D had improved antennas and sensors to cut through jamming. Range was still 27 miles, but intercept altitude was reduced back down to 82,000 feet. Minimum altitude was further reduced to only 820 feet. The SA-2E was equipped to cut through heavy jamming. It carried a larger payload, a 650-pound high-explosive warhead, up from the normal 430 pounds. It could also be equipped with a 15-kiloton nuclear device for nuclear air intercept. The SA-2F is probably the last and most fearsome SAM we'll encounter. U.S. jamming in Vietnam was wreaking havoc, rendering SA-2s completely ineffective. In response, systems were hastily upgraded to the F version, which used a new radar that ignored wideband jamming. The missile itself was also fitted with a system that would lock onto strobe jammers, meaning the missile would home onto the aircraft broadcasting the jamming signal. If both of these systems failed, an optical backup system would attempt to continue to guide the missiles to the target. Fs appeared in Vietnam in late 1970. SA-2X. The so-called Black SAM was a mysterious type of SAM that suddenly appeared during the summer of 1972, roughly in July, only to disappear a few months later in September. These new Black SAMs, as they were called, were stouter than the familiar SA-2 guideline and were an ominous dark black in color. They also appeared to be resistant to standard ECM jamming as well as being far more maneuverable than the standard SA-2s. U.S. aircrews suspected these new Black SAMs to be SA-3 GOAs, long rumored to have been supplied by the Soviet Union to North Vietnam. However, the National Security Agency maintained that they were simply improved SA-2 guidelines. In retrospect, it is likely that the NSA was correct. Although North Vietnamese crews were trained in the Soviet Union during the summer of 1972 to operate the SA-3, Hanoi did not deploy its first operational SA-3 regiment until January of 1973.
Red Crown, Dagger lead, 5 minutes to our target. Dagger 1, Red Crown, copy.
Okay, 20 miles out from our initial point. Since we're above this cloud cover, I'm actually going to bring us down in altitude for once. You know how much I like being at high altitude for my fuel efficiency. We're going to come down so I can actually see what we're looking at here, and there is the coast of Vietnam coming up on us here. While we're being obviously tracked by an early warning radar, somewhere down here, probably on one of these islands. Let's make sure that our ECM is on, and it is. And let's bring the radar in for a little bit closer look. We can see on the map there's a concentration of anti-air stuff around that little airport up to our right. That may be where this tracking radar is. And there may be SAMs there as well. Oh good, it stopped.
I'm out of gun ammo. He's burning and going down.
Ensign Sinclair off the wing.
Fox 1.
5 miles out from the initial point.
Sam, inbound.
I talked about not using these walleyes ever before, or at least not remembering that I've used them, which may seem a little crazy, but for some reason, as long as I've owned this game, and now I bought the standalone Wings Over Vietnam version of this game in, well, I was still in the Navy, so it would have been in, like, let's say 04 or maybe 05. So 13 years ago, 14 years ago. In all this time that I've owned these games, I tend to play in the early 60s, and I have hardly ever gotten to the 70s campaigns, like either of the linebackers. I don't know, just not something I've really ever gotten to. I think because I try to run the campaigns, I will play through a campaign by starting right in 1965, I get a few years in, and then I stop, and then when I come back to playing the game much, much later, instead of continuing the campaign, I opt to just restart. So I've restarted the Vietnam War many, many, many times, and I tend to not use the later technology stuff, so maybe a little weird, but I'm going to try to rectify that here, and we're going to try to use all sorts of weapons that I'm not familiar with, so that's what we got going today. Alright, I'm looking for our primary targets, and I'm not seeing any, as we're passing over Haiphong, right below us there. We're just a few miles away. We can see there's the inlet bay, the power plant on the far side. You can see the docks of Haiphong, one of the sets of docks of Haiphong over to the right. Light flak starting to come up. And we've got another air base here, so we're definitely going to have lots of it, of the flak. I'm still only picking up targets that are within the city right now. That's not helping. Alright, lots of activity down there. There's the power plant. I see some craters that I hope our strike team didn't get here already. There we go, there's a primary target. Ensign Sinclair, get in on that, please. And I'm going to target this KS-12 85mm anti-aircraft gun. I've selected the walleyes. Let's start with those. And we can see that it actually brings up the TV camera view here. Crosshairs. It looks like it's maybe locked. I don't know. Don't know what the release distance is on this. Is it locked? I mean, I guess it's locked. Looks like the crosshairs are getting slightly larger. Oh, they just got thicker. Well, we're coming down to 4,000 feet. Bombs away.
Bombs away.
That's probably good. There we go. Now it's nice and big in the TV. It's tracking good. Oh no, there goes the camera. Okay. So obviously I don't know. Oh. Well, Sinclair got something. I saw my explosion back there in the trees, but I'm pretty sure I did not hit that little guy. Just trying to say, clearly I'm not aware of the limits of the tracking camera that is on the aircraft, on the laser designator. Looks like our friendly squadrons are over the target here now too. Well, we've got another walleye, so let's flip around and maybe try it again. I see some rounds coming up from something right there in the trees. And it's an S-60. So maybe we'll give these laser-guided fellas another go here. So,
I've got a spike.
brakes out. Let's slow down. Is it? Doesn't seem to be locking on to what I need it to. It looks like it's just pointing straight ahead.
Fox 1.
Am I too close? Oh, no, there it is. It found it. Bombs away. And, oh, if I...
Fox 1.
Alright, I don't know if that was a hit or not.
Fox 1.
On the way in, I realized that I was too close, and if I pulled out, like you would with a dumb bomb, then obviously the laser designator was not going to track the target.
Red Crown. Hammer lead.
So I think that was a miss.
Hammer 1. Red
Well,
Crown.
sorry for that. I hope those of you who are
Red Crown.
are good at laser-guided bombs were not pulling your hair out too much, but
Red Crown.
this is why I brought conventional munitions that I am familiar with. So now we're going to flip around, and we're going to hit up some peeps with these white phosphorus bombs, because these I know how to use. Rockets nearby from somebody.
Target destroyed.
Okay, we're going to drop these in batches of 2. Where'd that gun go? There he is. He's right at the edge of this field. Right about there. There we go. White phosphorus hits. That looks pretty close to where that guy was. I think that was a hit. Looks like a willow tree in my rearview mirror. Okay, good. Sinclair is still attacking on his own, which is good.
Stand lost, stand lost.
There we go. Sinclair's bombs.
Target destroyed.
Oh no, actually that was somebody else. Because they got a target destroyed. There we go. Those are his on the far side.
Mission complete. RTV.
And we got a mission complete with that. Good job, Sinclair. Alright, we've got a gun right down below us here. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough to hit. No, we're not going to go for that. There's a KS-12 over here. Oh, is this the same one I was trying to hit before? It looks like it is. I guess I missed him. Well, we'll give him a second round. And white phosphorus away.
Gun, gun, gun. Look out, try. Fox 1. Direct hit. Fox 1.
Lots of activity in the sky above us here. Which is always nice to see. Oh, explosions off the left of the nose there. If there's lots of flak and lots of activity around, that means that we are not alone. Oh, we've got an SA2, an SA2B SAM launcher over there.
Target destroyed.
Right over there, I can kind of see it sticking up on its rail launcher.
Fox 2.
Alright. President Johnson and the White House might consider these things off limits for, quote, political reasons, but I've been assigned to take out anti-air weapons, and this definitely counts as one as far as I'm concerned. Alright, I can see it sticking up out of that little rice paddy there. It's basically a 3-story tall missile on a launch rail, 35 feet long, and we're going to give them what for with all of our 500-pound bombs. There they go. Yes. Sinclair, join back up, please. It's time to get out of here. Our mission's complete. I'm out of ammo. Sinclair is probably out of ammo, so we're just going to climb up a little bit and then egress out over the ocean. There's Sinclair crossing by my nose.
I've got a sight.
Coming course 125. Radar is showing nothing in our path all the way out. We are clear to the ocean, which is wonderful. Some flak off the right. This is Sinclair. Oh, he actually still has white phosphorus bombs.
Copy that. 5.
I would prefer that he not use those and just rejoin, though. There's somebody off to the right, some sort of aircraft, at our 3 o'clock.
Shotgun.
BU friendly? Or BU enemy? Hopefully is friendly. Kind of looks like an F4.
Target destroyed.
There we go, there's a P-12 search radar, early warning radar down there. Big Doppler ball. And an antenna. It's one of the spoon rest radars. And we're getting light flak coming from somewhere, so I'm gonna vary my altitude a little bit. Two miles out from our waypoint, and there's the radar tracking. Maybe coming from back there from that P-12 radar, in fact. I'm just going to jettison my racks today. Maybe it'll buy us a few extra knots of speed. I just want to get away from Vietnam before they launch 60 missiles at me again. We'll set the autopilot level at 10,000. That'll be good. No missiles so far. Let's see how Sinclair is doing. Oh god, what are you doing, Sinclair? He's definitely not joining up with me, I can tell you that. Looks like he's circling back to Haiphong. Looks like there's another radar facility on this tiny island. This might have been the guy that was tracking me. This might be a fan song. Looks like this is what Sinclair is after. He must be getting painted by the radar, and it's annoying him enough that he's going to swoop in and attack it. So let's see what happens. There he goes. White phosphorus away. Ooh, rounds coming up from the facility. Looks like he missed whatever he was aiming at. Now he's getting flakified. What's most concerning is that he is now all alone over Haiphong, well within range of enemy fighters, who now have nothing better to do because there's no one else there to occupy their attention. So I'm waiting for him to get shot down by some wandering MiG that happens by. But I tell these AI guys a billion times to reform, and if they don't want to, then they just refuse to do it. So I might as well just let him get it out of his system. Here we go, last two bombs. Bombs away. You gonna get it this time, buddy? Yeah, good job. Now, for reals, please rejoin.
Rambler 1, Red Crown, copy. 2, welcome. Returning to formation. 5.
And you can see I have come back up to my cruise altitude, my signed cruise altitude of 16,800. So we're back above the clouds, and we can see the fleet out there at about 60 miles on the radar. Navy ships, like most military equipment, often have two sets of nicknames. Those that are officially approved, and the more colorful ones bestowed on them by their crews who know them best. As aviation fans, we see this all the time with names like Buff, Slough, Spad, Warthog, Turkey, Scooter, Drumstick, and Thud. Oftentimes, these are love-hate names given by crews who have affection for an aircraft, but at the same time have to deal with it breaking down. If an aircraft is considered ugly, like the A-10 or F-4, there is no end to the crap they will take from their crews. The F-4 alone had names like Rhino, Double Ugly, Lead Sled, and Flying Footlocker. Hardly complimentary. Crews called the F-105 the Thud because they said that was the sound it made when it crashed into the ground. The F-100 was named the Clunk because of the sounds it would make in the hangar with no one near it. Ships are no different. As proud of a ship as you might be, if you're the one having to fix it when it goes wrong, you've earned the right to call it nasty names. The USS Kitty Hawk was known to her people as the Shitty Kitty. USS Brooke was the USS Broke. The Carl Vinson CVN-70 was Cell Block 70, after several incidents ashore led to restricted liberty in the mid-80s. USS Intrepid was the Decrepit. HMS Repulse was known as the HMS Repair. USS O'Brien became the O'Broken. Since dark humor is the primary way for military people to deal with traumatic situations, the USS Forrestal was called the Firestall or Forest Fire, and USS Oriskany became the Toasted O or the Big Risk. These are the ships that suffered the two most devastating ship fires during Vietnam. After a collision between the carrier USS John Kennedy and the cruiser USS Belknap, they earned the names Can Opener and Bell Crash. The current USS Essex, LHD-2, has a string of poop jokes based on the whole number 2, like Big Grey Deuce and the Steamin' Deuce. USS Lewis and Clark was the USS Lost and Confused. A running Navy joke when a ship doesn't go to sea much, like SSN 575 or SSN 597, is to call them Building 575 and Building 597 since they're tied up at the pier like a permanent installation. Enterprise had her own list of names. Officially, she was the Big E. The name Enterprison was used when they wouldn't stop moving us aboard for weeks at a time while in port, but I never thought that was very clever. While looking through some old study guides of mine, I found that I had angrily wrote in one the big, dumb, stupid, shitty E. Also, not very clever, but I was clearly working through something at the time. Much better older names were Quarter Mile Island and Mobile Chernobyl. Quarter Mile Island is a pun on the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident and a reference to the 1,123-foot length of the ship. Mobile Chernobyl is a reference to the Soviet accident of 1986. Now obviously, no command wants to be known by these names that ridicule the ship, any more than McDonnell Douglas would want the official name of one of their planes to be the F4 Double Ugly. It's not exactly putting your best public relations foot forward. Using these names in public is often frowned upon. Every ship has them, but we had an added political problem. Enterprise, being special as the first nuclear carrier, would of course draw names relating to nuclear power. And as she aged, and it was joked that she was falling apart, of course you would also imply that she was a disaster waiting to happen. As nuclear-trained operators, we knew that the ship was not unsafe, which is the context that makes it funny. The U.S. Navy has an unequaled safety record with nuclear power, and the standards we were being held to were extremely high. But the public generally doesn't know that. If the wrong person overheard somebody from the ship's crew jokingly calling it Mobile Chernobyl without any context, it could have potentially affected not just the regular image of the ship, but could have caused problems for the entire program fleet-wide. Besides the fact that it's kind of insensitive to the lives lost in that terrible accident in the Ukraine, many countries worldwide already will not allow our nuclear ships into their ports. We are limited in where we can pull in for port calls. False stories spreading that the ships were dangerous could sway other countries to pull their agreements, or cause problems here at home. The Enterprise Command therefore had a double duty to make sure that we didn't tarnish the reputation of the ship, or that of the Navy nuclear program as a whole. At some point in the 80s or 90s, the Air Wings began to make cruise patches with the Mobile Chernobyl motto and a detailed logo. They usually included the Air Wing number and all of its squadron insignias. The Air Wing is its own separate entity, so they can get away with doing a lot of fun stuff like that the ship can't control. I know that if we, in the ship's company, mentioned that name anywhere near upper management, it earned us a royal ass chewing. They tried to downplay it. We were even told that the patches had stopped in the 90s. But a Google search from just now found a picture of one of the patches from my own 03 cruise. Second image from the top. So I'm sure they continued up until the ship's last deployment. We, of course, never stopped calling the ship a variety of names, most of them uncomplimentary. But she was our home, whether we liked it or not, and our own blood, sweat, and tears made her go, so we earned the right to be a little critical of her bullshit. Hook is down and locked. Ship down below us to our left. We're coming in over her starboard side. Right there, and we're past. Cut the throttle. Here we go, roundy round. $250 knots. Gears coming out. Flaps are notch 1. Rolling out on downwind here. Oops, actually went a little beyond it. We'll just correct for that. Full flaps. As we're at just hitting 150 knots. In the downwind. There we go. We are just opposite of the touchdown area. The back of the deck. Just go a second longer here, and then I'm going to turn to base and final. Begin my descent, lose some of this altitude. We're right at 135 knots.
Showtime 1. Red crown. Copy that.
Over the wake now at 600 feet. There we go, lining up. Mamba 1 has the ball. .135 is correcting for center line and landing area. There's the wires. Mostly on center line, and whoa, looks like wire 2 today. But it's a good trap. Bring everything in. It was another safe landing aboard USS Enterprise. Hook is up, we're free of the cables, and we're going to taxi out of the landing area. Clear it up for Mamba 2 and anyone else returning to the ship. Good mission today. We had bad results with the walleye, which I'm to blame for that, that's all. It was just a learning experience, but everything else we made good hits on and we destroyed enough, so we'll see you on down in the debriefing to look at the details of that. Alright, let's see what they have to tell us. Our objective today was to suppress enemy air defense threats around Ong Bai. We were to destroy anti-air artillery positions in the area. Flight time was 34 minutes and 1 second. 3 primary targets were destroyed for a success of only 300 points. Not really a huge amount of points this time around. Okay, let's look at the stats for today's mission. I fired 2 walleyes for no hits, no kills, and no hits, no kills on those white phosphorus bombs, which is actually surprising because I thought that I at least hit that one gun, but I guess not. Not a great day for me. My only kill, in fact, was from the 12 500-pound bombs that I launched, which would have been the SA2 missile that was on the ground. So that was my only kill. That wasn't even a primary target. Ensign Sinclair, on the other hand, he won the day for us. He got 2 kills with the 500-pound bombs. He got 1 kill with walleyes, which is neat, and that one final kill with the white phosphorus bomb. So that means that the 3 kills, 2 with the bombs and 1 with the walleye, those were all primary targets, and those were the only 3 primary targets that we got. So good job, Sinclair. 4 kills today. Remember, he had no kills to start with out of 5 missions, so 4 for him today. He completed the mission for us. I was kind of useless, so the tables have turned. Well, I was doing a little experimenting today and didn't work out for me. That's okay, it's a team effort. Okay, quick look at the roster before we go here. We can see that I'm at 48 missions, 115 ground kills, and Sinclair, now there's his 4 air-to-ground that he got for his 6th mission. We've lost 1 guy, 1 KIA, which was Ensign Foster Alvarez, who was my wingman, and we have a POW, which was Lieutenant Bobby Hyduck, which was also my wingman. Other than that, we have lost no one else, which is good news. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for today. Another pleasant mission up into the capital region, up to Haiphong. Nothing terrible happened. A little bit of fiasco with the laser-guided bombs. I hope you'll forgive me for that, but that was just a little bit of on-the-job training, and we'll try to use them again in the future and learn from the mistakes here, and hopefully we'll do a better job with them. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and join me again for more flying and fighting over Vietnam with Strike Fighters 2. We'll see you next time.